Hello guys, welcome back to my channel. So in today's video I'm going to be giving you guys like my fall Halloween book recommendations. The funny thing is that when I was going through the books I wanted to recommend for this video, most of them I read on Kindle, so I don't even have the paper copies of them. I'm gonna be honest, a lot of these are probably gonna be either fantasy or dark romances. Fantasy gives me like the fall vibe, and then dark romance gives me like that Halloween-y vibe. Which I love, but I honestly, some dark romances I really don't like because they're just too much. But for a lot of these books I'm going to recommend, I would definitely look up the trigger warnings because there is a lot of graphic stuff in it that may not be suitable for everybody. I know it was very hard for me to read some things, but do what you will with that. So the first book I'm going to recommend, this one's actually a series. I read it about 2 years ago and fell in love with it. I adore this series. I think about it all the time. And that is the Caraval trilogy. This book series is so good and so complex. And this is what I think comes before Once Upon a Broken Heart, like that whole series. It's by the same author, Stephanie Garber. I don't remember the exact order everything happens in because I did read these like 2-3 years ago, but basically the gist of it is there is this kind of like game island that comes every year, and Donatella and her sister Scarlett get invited to go, and it plays mind tricks on you. You don't know what's real and what's not, and there's some romance in this, and it develops through each book, and you get more issues, more plot, more building, and I thoroughly enjoyed that. If you have read Once Upon a Broken Heart, Jax is in this series. He's not like a main character. I think he comes in the second book, if I'm right. Yeah, he is in that one. So if you like Jax and you want more of his story, read this. I would honestly recommend reading this before Once Upon a Broken Heart. I personally haven't read Once Upon a Broken Heart yet, but my sister has, and there were some things she was telling me and I was like, oh my god, I know so much about that because it happened in this book, but it's like not like a main part of Once Upon a Broken Heart, so you don't need to read this one before. But I would recommend it because it gives you more backstory. Like, I know Donatella is in Once Upon a Broken Heart. She's not like a main character or anything, but I know she is in it, and if you read this and get like that whole backstory before reading Once Upon a Broken Heart, I feel like it'll just make the experience better. The next book I'm going to recommend is another fantasy, and that is Fourth Wing. I'm recommending this one for now just because I read this in the fall season and I feel like it made it better just vibes wise, and this one also has like dragons and stuff. And I'm going to be honest, neither this one or the Caraval series really have anything to do with fall, but fall really puts me in the fantasy mood, so that's why some of these are fantasies. But this one has dragons in it. It's dystopian. It's world building. It's so good. I like this one better than Iron Flame, if I'm being honest. I've recommended this book so many times, so you guys probably know so much about it already. It was also super popular. So yeah, basically it's about this world, and there's different quadrants you can go into at this school. Writer's quadrant, and there's two others. One of them is with like books and stuff. I can't remember what they're called, but yeah. And basically this girl, and her name's Violet, she was supposed to be with like the book quadrant, but she gets put in the writer's quadrant, and she's like very fragile and all that. And basically you watch her go through all the trials and tests and stuff, and each writer gets like a dragon and stuff, and you see that. And it's this doesn't even give this book justice how I'm explaining it. I'm so bad at explaining books, but this one is so good. It deserves all the hype it gets. I gave this 5 stars. I absolutely love this one. If you have not read it yet, read it this fall. I'm telling you right now, it's the perfect time. And then the next book I'm going to recommend, I'm actually reading it right now. I'm not finished it yet, but what I've read so far gives me such fall Halloween vibes, which is Bride by Ali Hazelwood. You guys can guess why I picked this book. It's about a vampire and a werewolf. I'm not going to do a summary on this one just because I don't exactly know exactly what it's about. I'm about halfway through. But yeah, they get put in an arranged marriage. There's like the Wares and there's the vampires, and they do not like each other. Like, there's so much conflict, and they're trying to form an alliance. She gets put in an arranged marriage with the alpha of all the Wares. I love reading about like this version of vampires and werewolves because in everything, like every movie, every TV show, every book that has vampires and werewolves, it's always so different. Everybody always makes them different in just the slightest of ways. And I love the way they made these vampires. Again, I don't know too much about it because I'm only halfway through, but so far it's super good. I don't think it's going to be a 5-star, but I'm guessing like about 4-star. Yeah, I really enjoy the characters. The main character, I love her so much. And yeah, then the next book I'm going to read is kind of controversial. Hear me out on this one. It's Hunting Adeline and Haunting Adeline, the cat and mouse duet. I did not like Haunting Adeline. The first book, I absolutely did not like it. I liked Adeline, okay? I just did not like the concept of the book. It just was so unrealistic to me. Like, you're telling me you fell in love with your stalker who was creepy as hell, and the gun scene, if you know what I'm talking about, how do you come back from that? I'm sorry, what? I did not like that one. But Hunting Adeline, absolutely loved that book. I gave it, I think, 4 stars. I loved it so much. It was very, very hard to read, so definitely look up the trigger warnings for this one, but I loved it so much. I could not put it down, and I was like crying. I was feeling for her, like everything she went through. She is so strong. Yeah, going along with the cat and mouse duet, I would recommend reading Satan's Affair and Where's Molly. So Satan's Affair is about one of the side characters in Hunting Adeline. Both of these are kind of like novellas. Like, they're like 100-200 pages each. Like, they're not long at all. Like, you fly through them. Like, Where's Molly I read in one sitting. Same with Satan's Affair. I liked Where's Molly a bit better just because it reminded me so much of Hunting Adeline. And Satan's Affair, I'm recommending it because it's in this world and it's entertaining and stuff. But Satan's Affair gave us nothing. I loved the main character, and that's why I read it, but it gave us nothing. It was just a retelling of what happened in Haunting Adeline. Like, one scene in Haunting Adeline, it was like telling it from a different character's point of view, and I just didn't, like, I was like, I already know what happens. Like, I don't need this. But I still read it in one sitting. It was entertaining. I love the main girl. She's insane, but I love her so much. And yeah, that one I think I gave 3 stars because, again, like, it didn't give us anything, but it was entertaining. So that's why I didn't rate it lower, because I did thoroughly enjoy myself. And then Where's Molly? That one I think I gave 4 stars because I loved it. This one, this character isn't, like, Molly is not in Haunting and Hunting Adeline, but in Hunting Adeline, you hear about her and you read like her letters and stuff, and it kind of leaves us on a cliffhanger with her. And then this one like tells the whole story, so there's no cliffhangers left, which I really, really appreciate, because when I finished Hunting Adeline, I wanted to know what happened to Molly, and that was before I knew about Where's Molly, like that book. So when I found out they made a book like wrapping all that up, I was so grateful. I was like, I need this, thank you. But again, look up the trigger warnings for these ones because they're short, but they are very graphic and touch on some very, very deep topics. And then the next book I'm going to recommend, I was debating not recommending this one because I genuinely did not enjoy it, but I could appreciate the storyline and the whole concept of the book. Like, I could appreciate it. I personally did not enjoy it. Like, I never think about this book. It was so hard for me to get through it. I almost DNF'd it so many times. I don't know why I didn't. This one, I think I gave it like 1.5 stars or 2 stars. But it's The Hex Appeal by Kate Johnson. I'm gonna be so honest with you guys, I don't really remember what it's about. It reminds me of Encanto, if I'm being honest. If you've seen Encanto, it's that with witches. There's nothing, like, I feel like there was no plot. I didn't feel the romance. There was no tension. There was it was basically giving us nothing, and I was so bored the entire time. I genuinely don't know why I didn't DNF it. I'm not making you guys want to read this by saying it, but if you want Encanto meets like witches, then you would enjoy that. I personally just did not. Like, it wasn't my kind of book. I feel like this would definitely be good for like 14-year-olds, I would say, just because like it's not too romance based. It's not like anything like that. There's no like gore or anything in it or sensitive topics, so I would recommend it if you're a bit younger and want to get into reading. But yeah, personally, it just was not for me. The next book I'm going to recommend is actually a series. It's again controversial, but it's the Devil's Night series. I have only read the first 2 books, and I enjoyed it, but I felt so guilty for enjoying it because some of the stuff that happens in these books I can't justify. Like, I genuinely cannot justify. I think I gave the first one 3 stars, maybe 3.5, and the second one I know I gave 3 stars. I just like, I wanted to like it so bad because it's so hyped up, everybody loves it, and I like the concept. It's just, and like I like the story too, like there's nothing I don't like about it. It's just some things that happen in it I genuinely cannot justify, and I just felt so guilty for reading it. I didn't enjoy certain scenes because they were so like, you cannot justify what's in them, but like I enjoyed, I don't know how to explain it. If you've read it, you know what I'm talking about. Some things were so unjustifiable, so wrong, that I felt so guilty for reading it that I just could not get past it, you know? Like, I wanted to like it so bad, but I think that's why I kept reading it. I want to reread it and try to get back into it because I did read it when I was like 15, which maybe I was just too young and it just was too much for that time. But like all over my For You page, it's all about Devil's Night and stuff, and I just want to read it so bad. And the reason why I'm recommending it in this video is because Devil's Night is the night before Halloween, and that's like the whole theme of this book, I guess. And again, it's a dark romance, so look up trigger warnings if I hadn't made it clear enough. There are so many scenes in this book that are just honestly disgusting, so definitely look up trigger warnings for this book. And like also, one of the characters in this book, everybody says is like their favorite, Damon. Everybody says is like their favorite once they get to his book. The things he does, the things he says, how is he your favorite? How? I know, like, oh, he has so much trauma, he redeems himself. How can you come back from that? How can you come back from all that genuinely? I don't think he can do anything. I don't care what trauma he had. The stuff he did and said, he's not coming back from that. Okay, sorry if the angle changed. My phone just fell. But the last 2 books I'm going to be recommending in this video are thrillers, and that is Ward D and The Inmate by Freida McFadden. Freida McFadden's books are so good. I read both of these in one sitting. Ward D I rated 5 stars, and then The Inmate I think I rated 3, just because I didn't really enjoy how everything turned out in The Inmate, and it just seemed so unrealistic and just bizarre. But Ward D I definitely really enjoyed. I'm not going to tell you guys what these are about just because I don't want to accidentally spoil anything, but they're both thrillers. They definitely mess with your mind a lot. Freida McFadden's writing is just so easy to get through and so fast-paced. Like, genuinely, I love her books. And I read thrillers every time I'm in a slump, and they get me out of it every single time. Like, she's my go-to slump author. Like, anytime I'm in a slump, it's her I go to. And I personally am not a huge fan of thrillers just because I always love at least some romance in my book. But whatever she does, I don't know how she does it, but it just gets me every time. And even if you're not into thrillers, I definitely recommend at least giving these a try because you will not be disappointed. Anyways, those are all the books I'm going to be recommending in this video. But yeah, thank you guys so much for watching, and I hope you enjoyed, and I hope you got at least one book from this video. But yeah, I'll see you guys hopefully in the next video. Bye!